It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about Yacht. Now, if you've ever watched any of my videos or any other videos on the internet about using things in Docker, a lot of times you're going to come across some software called Portainer. Portainer is some great front-end web GUI software for dealing with Docker. But there are alternatives out there, and I wanted to talk about one today that has come a long way in the last year. I think I saw this pop up about a year ago on Reddit. Somebody who was looking for more of the features they wanted out of something like Portainer, but just hadn't seen that come through Portainer yet. And so he started developing his own, and it's called Yacht. So it's really a cool application. It's got some really great features. So I've got the GitHub site up here. I'll link you to the GitHub site. I'm also going to link you to his documentation, and I'll link you out there to Dockerhub, where he's also got the Yacht information that you want. And I'll kind of tell you how I'm going to run this, and we'll look at a couple of different things about it. Now, if you've used anything with Docker, or if you've used anything with Portainer, then Yacht is going to seem very familiar, but it's going to have a slightly different look and feel to it, but it's going to have a lot of the same features that you're interested in. So if you've been looking for something where you're like, I don't really want to run Portainer, I want to run something different, I wish there was something else, this might be the thing for you. So we're going to go out and check it out and see what we can find out about how Yacht runs and what it looks like. So he's got a lot of information here on GitHub. You can just do a one-click install with DigitalOcean, and the same thing with Linode. I'm not sure why the image link doesn't work there, but Linode as well. And he's got a bunch of really cool features like templating, running for ARM devices, by the way. So you guys that like the ARM devices, there is ARM support for it as well. He's got supported environment variables, and that list grows over time as well. So really cool, really something I'm interested in showing you guys, because I do like you to have options whenever you're looking at any of these types of software. And if you're going to run anything these days as a self-hosted kind of person with a home lab, or if you're running in a VPS, Docker is just such a really great way to containerize your applications and really keep them very lean and run a lot of applications on hardware that historically you wouldn't have been able to do that with. And, having a really good tool like Yacht or Portainer is really key to having success if you're somebody who's very used to using a GUI for getting things done. I kind of prefer the GUI for these things because it does give you a lot of information in a very simple overview, and it does give you some control pretty quickly without having to do a bunch of command line stuff. It's good to know the command line stuff, but having some good tools with a GUI is also really important these days. So we're going to get into it right after this. I just want to say thank you so much to all of my patrons over at Patreon. It truly means so much to me that you want to support me and support the content that I create. I just cannot tell you how much it means, really, from the bottom of my heart. I just want to say thank you. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon patron, jump over to the link in the description of the show notes and join up and start supporting my content as well. Again, I appreciate your support so much. Now let's get started. All right. I like to go out and find out, how does the author of software want us to run their Docker stuff? And if you jump over to Dockerhub, you'll find Self-Hosted Pro /Yacht, and this is the official Yacht stuff. You can see his last update was 6 days ago. And if you go check out the tags, you'll see that he's got latest, and then he's got previous versions that you can go grab, and it tells you how many days old they are. Now, latest is going to get you 6 days ago, but I have had some conversations with him over on Reddit a couple of times, and he has suggested that I check out the development branch. So that's what we're going to run first today. We can go back and check out latest and see if we see any real differences. It looks like this is pretty recent, so maybe there's not a lot of differences right now. But if you want the bleeding edge stuff, then you go with development. You just have to understand that it's in development, so there may be some issues or bugs that you find that you have to kind of wait for him to get around to fixing. So if you look here, you'll notice that he does have AMD 64, ARM version 7, and ARM 64 support for this container, for this Docker image. So he is building it for all three of these things, which is really cool. So if you're a Raspberry Pi user and you're looking to use something like that, or one of these other single board computers that uses an ARM chip, then you've got some options here for that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a terminal here, and I'm already logged into my server. I'm going to just increase this a bit, and I'm going to make a new directory. And I've got this kind of directory that I start off with. This is in my home directory, and then a directory called Docker. I put everything that I make Docker inside of this, so I'm just going to do mkdir Yacht, and I'm going to make a new directory called Yacht inside of that, and I'm going to cd into that directory. So now I'm inside of home Docker Yacht. So basically my home directory, which is /home/Brian/Docker/Yacht, and this is where we're going to put our Docker Compose file. So I'm going to do Docker Compose .yml, And I'm going to use Nano as my text editor. And we're going to come in and let's see, can I paste that? Yes. So we've got his Docker Compose. Now we can do a little bit of cleanup here with it. I'm just going to go up here and just kind of remove that first line. We don't actually need it. You can put it there if you want to. It doesn't hurt anything. And we'll go down and kind of check out what he has. So he has this, he creates a container and he calls it Yacht. So that's our container name. He says restart it unless we stop it, which I like. I like that setting. And we're going to go to here and we're going to set this to a port that's open on my host. If 8000 is already open on your host, feel free to leave it as 8000, but on my host I don't believe that's open, so I'm going to just change this left side. You can change the port, and it's basically like doing port forwarding. It's saying when I call this port on my host on the left, pass that to the container port 8000. So I'm just port forwarding one port to another. So I'm going to call this 8016. I don't believe that one's in use on my host. And then if you come down, he's got a couple of volumes he's set. Now I like to do // which means in the current directory, and then create a folder called Yacht, and then inside of that he's going to map that, kind of like port mapping, except we're doing directory mapping. So outside the container it's Yacht on my host, inside the container it's going to map to /config. Now this next one we don't have to change, and we don't want to, because we're basically mapping our var run docker socket to our var run docker socket, and we don't want to change that because that's what lets this application grab all of the information it needs in order to help us out with all of our Docker stuff. Finally, the image is self-hosted pro Yacht. Now if we leave this as it is, it's going to grab the latest. What I want is I'm going to put a colon, I'm going to put DEVEL, which is development, short for development, so we're going to get the development version here. And then this part down here with the volumes, I'm not sure why we're defining these. It's not necessary as far as I know. So I'm just going to erase these. I'm going to do, let's see, get rid of those two lines. If you want to get rid of lines in Nano, you can do Control and then K, and that'll delete lines for you. So it makes it really easy. So I've got all that out of the way. I'm going to hit Control O to save. I'm going to hit Enter to confirm, and then I'm going to hit Control X to exit. Now we've got that done. We're just going to do Docker Compose up-D. We're going to let this pull down, and there we go. It should be started. We're going to do Docker Compose logs -F just to check out the logs here real quick, and it looks like everything is running. I don't see any errors in the logs. He's got some info there, and then he's got Linux Server IO stuff there, so that's cool. So we're just going to do Control C to get out of that logs. I'm going to clear that out, and now we're going to go over to our browser. And we're just going to open a new tab here, and we'll put in the IP address. Now, if you're running this on your local machine, you can do localhost, but I'm going to put in the IP address of the server that I'm running this on, since I'm not actively on that server. And then I'm going to put in the 8016 is the port that I use. Now, if you change that port on the left, you need to use whatever port you set. If you left it as 8000, just use 8000. But in my case, I changed it to 8016, so that's what I have to put in. And there we go. We've got our login page for Yacht. Now, when you first log in, it's got default login credentials that you have to use, and then you'll change them once you're logged in. So you're going to put in admin at Yacht, and I'll make this larger actually. Let me blow up the screen here a little bit for you guys so you can kind of see what we're doing. So it's admin at yacht.local, and then your password is PASS. Very simple, all lowercase. We're going to hit login. It's going to ask if I want to save the password, and I don't. Now, right out of the gate, you're going to see that it finds all of my containers. I'm going to zoom this back out so you can see what it looks like at 100%. So you can see that it finds all of my containers, all of the stuff that I've got running, and it shows you what their CPU usage and memory usage is right here on their little cards, which I really like this. I think it's pretty cool. The one thing I wish is that he would go grab that dashboard icons repository that's out there on GitHub and try to match up these things where you can find this name in here, like Authelia, and put the Authelia logo on the corner of these cards where it's got Authelia. And the same way for any of the rest of these where it's got Dashy or Code Server or any of these others, it'd be really nice just to see the icon as well, because it would separate the cards a little bit more, make it look a little bit cleaner in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, really very simple to see. It's got cards for everything that you're running. And if you want to see detail, you can click into that. But before we do that, let's go change our credentials. So inside of user, we're going to click on this change password. And it tells you right here that you can also change your email address, so you don't have to use that admin@yacht.local. So we can do Brian, if I can spell, fixitdelrio.com. And I can put in a password that I like that's a bit stronger than what he defaulted it to. There we go. And once it matches, it'll give you the button over here on the bottom right, so you can hit save. And now I can say save it. That's fine. So we're going to go back to our dashboard here. We'll let it kind of fill out all of the cards for everything that it's finding. So you can see here I've got a few containers running. And if we want to see what's going on with some of these containers in a little bit more detail, we can click into the containers by clicking on the title here. So if I wanted to see what's going on with Dashi, when I click on Dashi, then I can come in and see a whole lot more detail than what I was seeing a while ago. So you can see what ports it's using and what those ports are mapped to, and then you've got links here that you can click on to open up the dashboard. So there's my Dashi dashboard right there. You've got your start and your stop, your restart, your kill, and your remove options here for this container. We've also got refresh just in case the data is not refreshing and we need to refresh it manually. We can. We've got help, and then we can also edit the container. So if we do edit, you can see here you get into a mode where you can actually change a few things, and it's kind of like a wizard that will walk you through the steps of what you need to change. So the next thing we've got is environment variables and what they're set to. So again, I can blow this up. It's not going to look super great, but you can see it's environment variables, what they're set to. Next, we've got storage. So basically what volumes we have mapped and where things are being stored. Now, not all of this is stuff that we map specifically. This is just letting you know, like, here's what it sees with the Docker socket. So here's the different storage locations that it's got going. And then finally, we can scroll down a little bit more and we can see the labels that are associated to this particular container. So I really like this layout. This is pretty awesome. Now, a couple of things here on networking. So we talked about the ports, but you can also click on the networks and see, like, what network is this a part of, which is pretty interesting. So if I click on that and I say, oh, that's on ARIA Docker, okay, I can see details about that network as well and what's going on and what the IP address and information is for this particular Docker container. So also interesting information that could be useful for other things at some point if we need it. So we'll go back to the dashboard one more time here. And again, I'm zoomed in, so keep that in mind. But you can, again, see everything that you're using. You can kind of see, like, what's the usage going on. I've got 1% memory usage on Sonar. Basically everything else is really low. So I mean, you can see that there's just nothing going on. So Jellyfin's using about 8% or 5%. Not a ton, just not tons happening. And then you've got 2% going on here for draw.io. But it does bring in all of the things that I like to run. Now, click on the applications level. You can see these in a little bit different view, which I think is pretty awesome. And if you look here, you can see, like, hey, what are the ports that these things are using? So here you can see that I've got iSpy. It's using a lot of ports. This is the webcam stuff that it sets up. So that's my agent DVR. If we come down again, we've got the OpenVPN client, and I've set these ports because I use that OpenVPN client for Multivad to run Qubit Torrent and Sonar and Jacket and all those things. So there's a bunch of things that OpenVPN client has for the ports for those other applications that are running through that network for that client. Draw.io has a few ports that it uses. So yeah, you can kind of see that information. It's laid out. This is a little bit more of a list, kind of like you would see with Portainer. And again, up here you've got updates. So if you want to see any kind of updates, we can click here. It's going to go out and try to check and see, like, which things have updates. So this is one thing that I wish Portainer would show us, actually. And I believe this little dot means that it has an update available. So here we can see that Solid Invoice has an update, Code Server has an update, Mesh Central has an update. The rest of these probably don't have updates yet. Jacket, Sonar, Qubit Torrent. So I've got a few things that actually need updates. I think that's pretty cool that I can see that from here. So I've got this Joplin server. I haven't got it all up and running yet, but it's there. So once we click into Mesh Central, you can see that there's some nice information. We've kind of talked about this already, but then there's also this section that says processes. So you can see what processes are being used by the application container, and then the logs. So a lot of times we look at the logs to see what's going on with an application, and this is really useful sometimes whenever you're seeing issues, being able to jump over to the logs and see if something's going on. Maybe your certificate expired, maybe it's trying to hit the wrong IP address because something changed on your network or your ISP. Super useful to be able to see this as well. And then of course stats, if there's any stats. You can see what kind of CPU usage you've had historically. You can check out memory usage, things like that, to kind of get an idea what's going on with your system. Now again, I've got this blown way up for you guys that are on mobile devices to make it a little bit easier for you to see. But again, very useful information. So when you come to the projects page, this is really where you will add something like a new application. And again, it uses Docker Compose kind of for its back end. So here you would just click on add. Let's try to add Snapdrop. I haven't run that in a long time, so we'll see if it works. But we're going to hit add. We're going to name it Snapdrop. Let's just see if we need to make any changes, which we do. We'll just make that there, and we'll add a 2 to the front of that. And the time zone is America, Chicago. That should be it. So we've got Snapdrop, we've got that set up. Let's I forgot to replace one of the little placeholders there, so we're going to do up again. Now that should be going out in the background. It'd be nice to see some kind of feedback. Oh, it is there. It's up at the top. I can't see it because I've got it zoomed in so much. But once you hit up, you see that it starts going. We got a little green happy down there that hopefully means everything is running. So if we look here, we'll see that it says running. So that's pretty cool. So if we go back to our applications, we should be able to find Snapdrop here in the list. And he has a search here. So if we do snap, yep, there's a filter. If we go to 8012, look at that. There's Snapdrop running right here on my machine, which is pretty awesome. I think that's just absolutely incredible that you can do it this way. So yeah, so Yacht is really a pretty cool application. So the projects section there is really great. So if you've got your Docker Compose, if somebody's already made one for you, paste it in there, make the edits that you need to. So we're going to move down here, and we're going to go to the resources section, and I'm going to zoom this back up a little bit for you guys. I know this is really hard to see anyways, but when you look at resources, so if you click on this, it'll expand, and you can see here's my images. So you'll get a list of all the images that you have on the system. And we're going to do something with this here in just a minute. So I've got a lot of images, and you can see there's 25. I can hit all. And this is going to be quite a few. So I haven't pruned them at all. I've pruned them kind of recently, but there we go. We've got a bunch of images. And then we can check out volumes. So we've got volumes. I've got a few that are unused as well. And then finally networks. So you can kind of see what networks are there and which ones are not being used. And we've already gone to settings and changed a couple things. But if we look at settings, again, you get a few different ideas of what you can do here. So you can import JSON. If you have JSON files, like old portainer files basically that were in JSON format, you can import those here. If you want to change your theming colors, you can do that. And he has some great tools here to help you do that, which I think is pretty cool. Your template variables. So you can kind of see what are your template variables and what are they set to currently. So you can kind of change those if you want to or need to. And then the pruning part, this is really great. So if I say prune images, it's going to take just a second, and then here at the bottom it's going to tell us like, hey, I pruned them and here's how many I got rid of. So it's going to go through and look and say like what images are basically unused at this point, and it's going to get rid of those images if you're not using them right now. There you go. So I got rid of 181 unused images, which is pretty awesome. You can do the same thing with networks, the same thing with volumes, and the same thing with containers. Now, it does give you a warning about containers because it says, hey, like if you do this, it's going to get rid of them and you could lose data and stuff like that. So kind of be aware when you do that, be very careful. Finally, you've got the update tab, so you can check for updates for Yacht itself and then run the Yacht update if you need to. Now, I'm running development, so the update's not going to really apply because the development's going to be kind of like a nightly build, I imagine. So from the dashboards, we can go down here to this folder, and this is your templates folder. So if we click on templates, you'll see I don't have any templates yet. So if we click on add, if we don't have any, it's going to suggest that we add this one right here. So he gives us the URL that we need, so we can kind of just add this as our default, and then we can go find other templates if we want them. But this makes it pretty easy for us. So we're going to highlight this. We're just going to paste it in right here, and then we're just going to give this the Yacht default templates as the name. And we'll hit submit. So it's going to go out, it's going to start pulling down those templates for us. And once we click on it, now we can see all of the templates for all of the applications that we can install. Now this uses the default templates that is maintained by the person who makes Yacht. So there's a really good chance that these should work just fine with Yacht without too much trouble and without too much modification. So you can see that there's just a massive number of templates for you to go out there and grab some really great self-hosted applications. Now, I of course prefer the self-hosted open source applications, but that does not mean that you have to use the open source applications. There are plenty of proprietary closed source applications that you can self-host. You need to know what the restrictions are, you need to understand the licensing for those, and you need to understand if they cost money and when you have to pay that money. Just be aware of that. Plex is an example. Plex you can use for free for the most part, but there is some cost to certain features. Plex is a really terrific application. If you want to use Plex, you should definitely consider getting it this way. It's a really great way to run your server and make it easy to maintain. There's several in here that I'm sure will be the same way, so just be aware of that. But look, there's just so much stuff in here under the templates that he's maintaining, and this doesn't even include if you go find other templates that other people are maintaining as well and add those things. But basically you can get one of these things up and running pretty easily, I imagine, without having to do too much work. So right here you've got AirSonic. Let's just deploy AirSonic. Why not? So we're going to say deploy. It's going to bring us to this wizard again where it's kind of this walkthrough that we've seen before. Kind of has all of the stuff already filled in for us. We don't really have to do much there, so we can just go to the next thing. Here it's got your network, so here you want to know what your mapping needs to be. So if you're already using 4040, you would want to change this for your host side. Again, on the container side, don't change that port. But on the host side, you may want to change this if 4040 is already in use. I don't think 4040 is in use on my machine, so I'm just going to leave it like it is. As far as the network mode, it has different options for you. And then you can select what network you want to use as well. So I've got this one called Aria Docker. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. I'm going to let it run inside of Aria Docker. That's fine. And then we're going to click on Next. So here we've got a few volumes. Now you do need to understand a few things whenever you're running something like AirSonic or Navidrome. You want to know where your music is stored and you want to give it the path to that. So here on the host side, you want to make sure to set up where your music is being stored. Now this is this variable here. You kind of want to say like where it's at. Now you can use this, and I imagine through the AirSonic UI you can say, hey, here's my music, and go pick where that is, and then it maps to this for you. So we're just going to hit next. We have a user ID and a group ID, and he's kind of just already setting that thing, so there's not too much for us to do. This is kind of setting environment variables that he's already set, and you can see those back over there on those template variables page inside of settings. Don't forget that that's there, and you can go change that if you want to or need to. So you can change these things to be something that's more correct, and then it's like that all the time for you, which is really nice the way that he set this up. You don't have to go set it on everything. And then if you have a Java Ops location, he kind of presets that, but you can set that as well. We're going to just go ahead and click Next, and really it's kind of ready to go. It's going to go out here and kind of set up AirSonic for us. And there we have it. We have AirSonic running. There it is. There's AirSonic. So we can go ahead and start logging in. We can start setting up AirSonic to play our music. And we just installed that through Yacht. It is not something that I already had installed or set up at this point. So pretty great, pretty easy. Templates make it really awesome to kind of go do those things that you want to get done easily and really may not have the time to go set up yourself or the desire, because there's these great templates already here. You don't really have to go do it. You just have to kind of follow through the wizard, make sure you know what little things it needs, and as you find those things, if you're not sure, go find them and then come back and finish setting it up. So pretty great. I really like this. I think he's done a pretty good job of the way he's laid this out and made it available. So definitely an option if you're looking for something for a nice GUI level containerization tool. Something to sit on top of Docker and help you manage your Docker and your Docker containers and all of your self-hosted stuff. I think this is a terrific tool. Yacht is really great. The developer continues to do development work on it, so I'm excited to see what else he comes up with and how it goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it so they can come along the journey with us, and I'll talk to you next time.